And so several organizations such as Tesla and NASA, they went on and said, we're banning Zoom. So none of our employees are allowed to use Zoom or attend Zoom meetings. We don't trust we have too many privacy concerns, and therefore we're going to ban it. Then we saw governments such as Germany and Taiwan join the ban, and they said, okay, we don't have an appetite to allow Zoom for anything in this country, and therefore we're banning Zoom as well.
HealMyTech, welcome to Sash from HealMyTech, and today I have with me Jamal Ahmad from Kazient Privacy Experts, who is, and I quote, an award-winning GDPR Privacy Consultant. Am I correct, Jamal?
Yes, thank you very much for the kind introduction. You are correct.
I met Jamal through a couple of WhatsApp groups we were on together, and was following a necessity for my own self to do some broadcasting live, and I was using the Zoom application. And I had a few problems, Zoom bombing, and then after which I had some issues with my own computer passwords and stuff. Maybe not linked, but it was very strangely coincidental. Having said that, did some research, came across Jamel's, I don't know if it's your own article, but it was on your website, and it was quite enlightening, and I did a bit more digging, and I made a decision to stop using Zoom completely, and I advise everyone else of the same, because there were alternatives. So Jamal, introduce yourself, and we're going to talk about the article.
So I'm Jamal Ahmad, CEO of Kazient Privacy Experts. We are an award-winning and leading provider of GDPR and other privacy solutions worldwide. We won Best SME Award by the Best Business Awards in 2019, and we was also shortlisted as finalists by the British Business Awards. In addition to that, when it comes to qualifications and credibility, we featured across loads of newsrooms all over the world, including the BBC, Euronews, Thomson Reuters, LBC News, and many others, which you can see the articles on our website. And I was also awarded the Fellow of Information Privacy by the International Association of Privacy Professionals, which recognizes me as a global thought leader when it comes to all things data privacy.
We are in good hands today as far as expertise in GDPR is concerned.
You should be in very good hands today. Yes, that's
right. So we'll pay some attention. So tell me, referring to the article, there were three main aspects. The title is 3 privacy issues you should be concerned about in terms of Zoom. Zoom knows more than you think. So give us a brief, synopsis of it. And also after which you give us some updates, because that was done a while ago.
Okay, sure. So if you think back to the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of offices were starting to get closed, and there was a lot of disruption when it comes to having meetings, both with clients and also internal meetings. And so there was an appetite to find a way to have a video call or to still hold those meetings where you could see each other face to face. And Zoom was made itself known as one of the leading providers at the time. We could download it very easily. I think it was free for about 40 minutes. And it became very popular very quickly. However, what soon started to happen was lots and lots of meetings started to become disrupted, and people were entering into other people's private meetings and often playing obscene pornographic material, making racist remarks, playing pornographic noises. And it happened so frequently that a new term was invented, and it was called Zoom bombing.
Okay. Victim.
and so, I mean, if you're having a confidential meeting or if you're having a meeting with a client, the last thing you want is somebody to come and invade that meeting and start playing all of these offensive materials, because your client, they might not be familiar with Zoom bombing. As far as they're concerned, it's something that's happening in your house, in your room, or in your company by one of your colleagues. And so it was very alarming for a lot of organizations. And so several organizations such as Tesla and NASA, they went on and said, we're banning Zoom. So none of our employees are allowed to use Zoom or attend Zoom meetings. We don't trust we have too many privacy concerns, and therefore we're going to ban it. Then we saw governments such as Germany and Taiwan join the ban, and they said, okay, we don't have an appetite to allow Zoom for anything in this country, and therefore we're banning Zoom as well. And then we had reports of 500,000 Zoom login informations that were breached, and that was available for sale on the dark web for less than a penny each.
Wow. These are properly documented. These are not just conspiracy theories, correct?
These are facts as reported in the news. That's correct.
So that was a problem back then. I have read that some of these were put forward to Zoom and they did some patching. What's the update?
Yeah, so I mean, Zoom's got an update now, 5.0, and they've fixed some of the security flaws, and they've removed some of those invasive privacy trackings where you could monitor what someone was doing and paying attention to how long they're looking at your screen or whether they're clicking off another screen. So they've removed that very invasive tracking. However, they tried to address some of the security flaws, so credit to them for that. So now they include a report user button. So if someone invades your Zoom meeting, there is a button to report that user. They've got improved encryption, although it's still not end-to-end encryption. They say they're working on that. And they now require passwords for meetings. So it makes it a little bit more difficult for someone to enter without the password if they happen to come across your link.
It sounds like they've done something, but I also read that they were aware of the situation from way before, chose not to do anything about it until they got into serious trouble. Is this correct?
So the facts as reported is that Zoom was aware of a lot of these security flaws and issues for a long period of time, and they've chosen not to do anything about it. It's only when they saw that it's actually going to be impacting their share prices and the amount of users they have, they decided that the appetite was there to try and do something before they were banned by all of the governments and all of the organizations in the world. Having said that, Zoom bombing still hasn't been entirely resolved, and virtual classes now are especially being targeted.
Like, today we're actually using an alternative which is called Cisco WebEx meetings. Cisco needs no introductions, industry standard level. And I jumped straight from Zoom to this one. In fact, this one I'm doing a paid subscription service because I do some classes online. So this is a question I don't know if you can actually answer. How is Zoom different to the other alternatives? For example, why am I safe on Cisco as opposed to on Zoom, if I'm safe at all?
So to answer the question without opening myself up to liability, the main differences are the level of security and confidence that you can have in that. Now, we know with Zoom there are several security flaws that haven't been addressed, whereas Cisco and WebEx, things that have been around a little bit longer, they've had longer to get those things right. They have more experienced team on board to understand those things. And Cisco has been working with technology and organizations for a long time. So if you look at some of the massive corporates that Cisco are working with, some of them are ISO 27001 certified, which means they meet a really high benchmark when it comes to all things data privacy and data security to be even able to allowed to be considered by those organizations. So security and privacy are key for those organizations, and some of the other competitors would actually meet those certifications and qualifications and seals of approval. So they meet a certain benchmark and a standard which is acceptable within corporations and industry. Zoom, on the other hand, it came very quickly overnight, and it wasn't really designed to be used for corporates. It was more for people wanting to have an alternative to kind of FaceTime to really speak to their friends, catch up with their families, a little bit like that house party app that we saw come along. Right. But because of this pandemic, the timing was right, and Zoom seemed to be providing a good solution to be able to talk to people for free.
Right, I see. Okay, so you mentioned a couple of things. In fact, the article was talking about 3 different problems. But you mentioned 2 that I can think of right now would be, one would be the security aspect, which you say there has been some improvement on. And the other one is about the intrusion of privacy, is about the monitoring aspect of it. So the point is this. At some point, we're all connected online and we all have some level of monitoring. We know Apple, Google, even Microsoft have some level of monitoring. So what's different really?
So the main difference here is, okay, look, first of all, yes, there are organizations that are collecting our data all the time. In fact, some of us are more than happy to give up our data for free in return to access to articles and videos, etc. However, what we have to remember is all organizations have an obligation to safeguard and protect the data that they collect from people like me and you. And that's why the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, was enacted in May 2018 to empower individuals and to establish the right to privacy as a basic human right. And the GDPR was aiming to give us more control, not just over the information that somebody collects about us, but about how it's actually used. And the difference between some of these organizations is that they actually are respectful of the GDPR, they follow what it says, they meet the principles of that, whereas organizations such as Zoom have still some gaps that they need to address in order to get those things right. Now, because of GDPR, Apple, Microsoft, Google, and other social media companies, they're constantly under the spotlight to improve their practices. And Google in particular has received huge fines. The company recently lost an appeal for $56 million for a fine of violations of GDPR in France. And the fine was not for making it sufficient. The reason they was fined is because they didn't make it sufficiently clear to Android users how their personal data is processed. And we can see from lots of reports and articles on Zoom and from other security experts that Zoom has been collecting and using information and going into your system in ways that they've never even described or told us about. And that is where the mistrust comes from.
Right. So the issue is about the transparency mainly, not about the actual collection of data.
So when we talk about transparency from a privacy and a regularity point of view, we're talking about transparency about what information are you collecting from me? So what information are you going to collect from me? Okay, I know I'm going to give you my name and my email address, but then once I download your app, once I start using it, what other cookies are you placing? What other kind of observations are you making about me automatically that I'm not even aware of? And how are you going to then use that information? Who are you going to share that with? How are you going to sell it? And one of the issues that was identified was that Zoom was sharing all of people's information about how they was using certain things with a number of third parties, which wasn't disclosed, which then led them to disable one of the Facebook SDKs, I believe. But this is where all of the mistrust comes from. Zoom's previous practices have shown that they have failed to recognize data privacy as a basic human right. They failed to be transparent with the information they're collecting from us, what they're going to be doing with that, who they're going to be sharing with.
I get from the global kind of perspective in terms of data privacy and how it's being used. Let's talk about the actual individual. Let's say I don't really care about who has my name and number, whatever it is. So if I didn't care as an individual, and I'm guessing some people don't, what's the worst case scenario that can happen with my information? What's the absolute worst case scenario if I didn't care?
Look, here's the thing. A lot of people actually make this argument. And even when I'm training some of my clients, they say, we don't really care about our data privacy. I've said to everyone that's ever said that to me, can I have your phone for a day, your email and the password to your email? And to this day, no one that's claimed they don't care about the privacy has given that to me. Now, what we sometimes fail to appreciate and realize is that our devices, our accounts can reveal so much information about us. And if someone says they don't care about privacy, that's not really true. Let's take an example of the house that you live in. When you walk into your house, you have a door, you have a lock. That's the security of the house, but you still have transparent windows, right?
Sure.
Why do you put curtains in front of the windows? Is because you value your privacy. You don't want people to look in. You don't want someone to be standing outside and watching what you're doing all day, every day. Even then, within your own house, you share that with your loved ones, people that you trust. But when you go to the bathroom, you shut the door or you have a shower curtain to give you that sense of privacy. So privacy is important to the human nature, and that's in a physical sense. But when it comes to digital data, because it's not tangible, sometimes people don't appreciate or realize how much it is revealing about you. And some studies show that if you can monitor someone's phone or device for 24 hours, you can actually learn more about them than their immediate family and the neighbors ever knew about them, just by monitoring how they're using the device, what kind of things they like, what are their preferences, what kind of articles are they reading, how are they responding to certain things. And from that, we saw the Cambridge Analytica scandal, where they profiled individuals on 500 data points to send them targeted messages to sway elections. And from your privacy, or from you giving up your privacy and giving people access to these things, they can really learn a lot about you than you even knew possible, about the way you think, how likely you are to buy something, depending what kind of language they should use when they target you. And also, more importantly, is several things can happen if your information is leaked or breached. It opens the gateways for other accounts to be hacked. So, like I said earlier, there was, I think, 500,000 Zoom logins put online. And most people would use their email to log in, and they might use a password that they use in other places. Now, if someone else gets hold of that password that you're using for other accounts, and that can contain sensitive information. So for example, with that, I might be access your emails. And when I access your emails, I can see all of the organizations and people that you're having conversations with. I might then get access to your bank accounts or to your banking because I know who you're banking with, and I can see some of your statements or where those statements are coming from. And that opens up the possibility of people doing fraud and identity theft, because they're learning more information about you. So if they know that you've just ordered something by tracking your emails, they might say, hang on a minute, your payments failed. We need to collect your payment details to confirm the order before we can send it out. Or they might send you an offer that's too good to be true. Or they might purport to be someone you have a relationship with and use that information they've learned about you from your other accounts to commit fraud and identity theft and really cause you lots of damage. The other thing is, just one more thing I want to add there, is some of us use our emails and our passwords in more than one place. Now, if you look at most smartphones now, they collect biometric information. And by biometric information means I can set my phone up so I can look at it and my face will unlock it. Now, that biometric information about my face, that's a data file. I can also use my fingerprint to unlock it. And my fingerprint is also contained in a piece of data. Now, if someone has the details to access my account that I've set up that biometric information on, they can then use that biometric information or keep a copy of it to pretend they're me. Now, if you get access to my bank cards or my bank details, I can change them. I can ask them to be blocked. If you get access to my emails, I can change the password. If you get access to my Amazon, I can request them to do two-factor verification. But if you get access to data files about my biometrics, my eyes, my fingerprints, my facial recognition, unless I go and have rhinoplasty, there is nothing I can do about that.
I was going to say, you probably haven't watched Face Off then. Okay. What you're talking about sounds so scary, it almost is unbelievable. Are you fear-mongering at any chance? I'm trying to be the devil's advocate here.
So look, I'm not fear-mongering. I'm telling you the facts as they are. And I'm just making you aware of the possibilities. And you have no idea how many people contact myself and colleagues and other experts every single day to say, oh, this has been hacked, that's been hacked. Let me give you an example of a very well-known scholar. We could say he's a scholar. So he's someone that people look up to. He's very well known on social media. He delivers sermons and he leads prayers and he also teaches. Now, somebody set up a Twitter account pretending to be somebody that he already knows. And this person was saying, oh, we are from the ministry, a certain ministry in Saudi Arabia. We would like to discuss you coming over to teach some of our courses. And over the course of time, they built a relationship with this gentleman. And then they said, oh, look, we really need to communicate with you. Can we have a call via WhatsApp? So he was like, yep, that's fine. Then they said to him, look, WhatsApp doesn't work in Saudi Arabia. And he knows this to be true from when he's been on pilgrimage. Actually, WhatsApp calls don't work. So I said, look, we're going to set up WhatsApp business. We're going to send you a message. When the code comes, send us the code so we can communicate. So the message came. He was in the middle of something. He said, yes, I know these people. I trust them. Here's the code. And what they did is they hacked his WhatsApp. So that was a verification code sent by WhatsApp to them. So they've now hijacked his WhatsApp account. And they've set up WhatsApp, and now they've gone to all his groups and contacts, and they've asked them for a little bit of help. Now, remember, this guy is very yeah. And they've been asking them for bank account details. Now, this gentleman, he got in touch with me and says, look, this is what's happened. What can I do? WhatsApp doesn't have a phone number to call. I just have to rely on emails. They're in another time zone, and people are calling me and saying they've handed personal details, bank account details, and not only now they're thinking about it. It doesn't seem right. Was it actually me? And this is this is destroying his whole reputation and credibility, because people look up to this guy. They trust him. It's someone like that you love dearly. You look up to. They teach you stuff, asking you for a bit of thing. Of course, you feel honored that this person has asked you for help in their time of need. You know, this is how much you respect this person. So are you going to think twice? No, you're going to be like, here, you need more. And this is it. This is it. So I'm not fear mongering. I'm telling you exactly what can happen, what has happened, from the stories that we hear every single day.
I mean, I just pray that it sounds bad, and I know that we can actually verify everything you're telling us because everything is documented. So here's a question then. Apart from Zoom, are there any, to your knowledge, other similar platforms that we should be wary of who does similar practices?
So what I would say is when you choose to use a piece of software or when you choose to hand over your personal information, always do your basic due diligence and check the privacy notice of this company. Is it being transparent? Are they telling me all of my privacy rights? Are they telling me what information they're going to be collecting? How they're going to be using that? Do they let me know how I can stop that from happening? Are they giving me permissions to opt out or to withdraw my consent at any point? And where is this organization based? I would look for organizations that are based in Europe because of the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulations, which means that privacy is a basic fundamental human right. And any European organization that processes your personal data must be compliant with the GDPR. Otherwise, they risk fines of up to 20 million euros or 4% of their annual global turnover. The first thing I would do is avoid using software from outside of Europe. And if you are going to be using software based in Europe, then only do it because you can't find alternatives. Now, last month, there was a ruling by Europe's highest court, the European Court of Justice, which basically said that data sharing, so sharing personal data to the US, must cease with all organizations because the US is actually spying on individuals outside of the US. And there's a piece of legislation called FISA, which is FISA, and it's the Federal Intelligence Surveillance Act, which basically means that the US government and the US Secret Service can go to any organization based in the US at any time and say, hey, hand us all of your data. And particularly concerning is when you have users or when you have software or platforms that are focusing on specific user groups. So for example, if there's a platform that is specifically targeting Muslims, because of the war on terror, we know that the US has been trying to build a map of Muslims in the UK for a long time. So I'll be very wary of using any US-based platforms for anything in particular.
That opens a whole different kind of worms because we do use a lot of products which are based in US. But anyway, that we're going to leave for discussion for another time. So here's a question for you. What is Kazient Privacy Experts' role in all of this? What are you offering? How can people contact you and benefit from this thing? And also, is it going to be world-based stuff or just Europe-based?
So, sorry, say that last part again?
So could anyone contact you from outside of Europe and get your input, expertise, consultancy services, whatever it is, or are you just focusing on European countries?
Yeah, so as a data privacy consultancy, we do offer global consultancy, so we can help any organization anywhere in the world to really empower them to make sure they understand people's how they're processing. Let me start that one again.
Okay.
Let me take it.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. I'll edit this out anyway.
Yeah. So as a privacy consultancy, we do operate globally, and you can see from our website that we've operated in over 136 countries across the world. And so we help empower any organization that processes personal data, whether it's your clients, whether it's your employees, whether it's your other stakeholders. If you're processing any personal data, we can help empower you to make sure that you treat that data respectfully in a way that not only cultivates trust, inspires confidence, and then maximizes your income as well. So any organization across the world, we're more than happy to have a conversation with you to see how we may be able to help you to save some time, enjoy more freedom in the way you operate, and ultimately boost your profits.
Right. Okay. Now we're going to kind of conclude the Zoom discussion. Last question, simple answer. The title probably is going to be this: to Zoom or not to Zoom? What do you say?
So my personal advice is not to Zoom, especially for organizations. And the reason I say that is the risk of a potential data breach is way too high. And if you're an organization that's based in Europe and some of the information includes other people or customers or employees based in Europe, and that's breached or that's leaked, then you open yourself up to huge liability when it comes to compensating those data subjects. And you also risk reputational damage as well, which is really key.
Right. But you mentioned especially for organizations. What if they are individuals, and even after maybe discussing these points with them, should we still advise them best not to Zoom?
So I would say it really depends on what you are going to be using that for as an individual. And it's up to you to see what your risk appetite is, what other information that you might have on any device that you use the same platform on, what else you could expose yourself to, and how comfortable you are with somebody potentially invading your privacy and learning lots of interesting things about you. It's a matter of personal opinion. Some people might say, I just use it on this device. I don't use this device for work or any other banking or anything else. And I just want to speak to my family in another country because I'm working abroad. For them, it's completely okay. The risk of harm of that is quite small. And they also know they have good cyber hygiene. So they have different passwords for different things. They might even be using a VPN, which creates a secure network between their device and the internet. So for them, they might say, you know what, I'm happy with the risks. I've had to think about the damage and I'm quite okay with it. For other people that might use the devices for working, that might use the devices for reading their emails, that might be a little bit more private and not want people to know all of the intimate business, I would say definitely better to avoid.
Right. I guess, like you mentioned earlier on, you said the ease of which Zoom was all set up was the biggest appeal. So right now, because we're using Cisco WebEx meeting, which is, by the way, not a specific endorsement, it's just what we're using right now. But I can think of other things like Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, for example. What other alternatives would you advise if we're not going to go down the Zoom route?
Yeah, so I mean, the top three, I would say, or the top three most popular alternatives to look at would be, first of all, Cisco WebEx. And the good thing about WebEx, it actually gives you video encryption. So you have encryption, end-to-end encryption, which means that all of your calls and videos are kept private. The second contender is Microsoft Teams, and that also allows people to set up two-factor authentication, and it also encrypts data. And finally, if you're an individual or you have a small group or you're part of a small organization, then you can always use Google Meet.
All right, fantastic. Okay, so any final disclaimer or affiliations to any entity mentioned today that we need to be aware of?
Yeah, so we haven't been endorsed by any of the organizations I've met today, and any opinions I've given on Zoom are based on my own personal opinions from the research that I've come across and from the articles that I've read.
Right, fair enough. All right, so last word, any contact info, how to reach you, and any plugins you want to give shout outs to?
Yeah, so if anyone wants to get in touch with us, you can come to our website, www.kazient.co.uk. And if you want to learn or read more about these kind of articles on Zoom and other things that you might find interesting, you can always go /news. If you want to see some of the articles and expert opinions that we featured in for some of the main newsrooms, you can go to our in the news section. And for everything related to social media, on Instagram, you can find us at Privacy Experts, Facebook, Kazient Privacy, Twitter, and LinkedIn as well.
Okay, brilliant.
I want to give a big shout out to Ashik from HealMyTech. Absolutely amazing legend.
Thank you, and you're probably going to need my help because your green skills suck badly. You're spitting all over, and I think I'm going to have to hook you up, hopefully. But if I do, hopefully you will appear in future episodes on the channel because I'm pretty sure we're going to need you for some input. Like maybe even, Google, Apple, Microsoft, they got some slight, questionable practices as well. So would you be game for that?
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
All right, Jamal, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, guys, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. This was Ash from HealMyTech helping you go from newbie to techie and develop a better relationship with tech. Until next time, peace out.